What is something that instantly killed the crush you had on someone? I had a crush on a pale, black-haired guy named Wyatt in high school. He looked so interesting and intensely handsome at the time. I also loved that his name was Wyatt. I grew up watching Tombstone, and I thought that was the most amazing name for a guy. One day, a new girl came to school and it started to rain. She was a harmless, free-spirited type who was just happy experiencing life. Totally inoffensive and a little loopy, but genuinely sweet. It started to rain outside, and she, the little nature-loving spirit that she was kind of wheeling around in the rain, enjoying herself, feeling the water, indulging in petrichor, and a group of us were watching from the porch. Wyatt, who up until then had seemed like an accepting, kind person, announced, "I hope that dumb bitch gets hit by a car." That was my first lesson in understanding that people you think are beautiful are not at all beautiful. Some of them are just hateful. I couldn't stand to be in the same room with him after he dropped that bon mot. I had a crush on a guy. He used to stare at me quite a lot, so I started paying attention and found him sort of hot. Sometimes, I'd also steal glances at him. We used to end up having these staring contests here and there. This went on for a couple of weeks until one day in biology class, we were learning about human reproduction. He started laughing with his friends whenever the teacher said anything like coitus, penetration, condoms, and so on. Up until that point, I was in denial because the idea I had of him was far from this behavior. After that, the teacher started teaching us about lactation and asked us to explain whatever we knew about it, one by one. His friend used the word, breastfeeding, in his explanation, which was completely fine, but they all started snickering among themselves. That's when my tiny crush on him died instantly. Trust me, we were not in 5th grade. I had a crush on this guy in high school, and my friends kept telling me to approach him and talk to him because that was the only way he would know I existed. Obviously, he couldn't fall in love with someone he had never known before. So I gathered the courage, and my friends watched as I went to make my move and say hello. Tell me why, in the middle of our conversation, he picks his nose and eats the booger. Whatever feelings I had for this guy definitely went out the window and got hit by a truck or something. I had a crush on my colleague, a smart, gorgeous, and outspoken blonde software engineer who became my workplace rival. She was way out of my league and engaged to a nice but schlubby guy before her first day on the team, so I kept it to myself and dated others. We became friends. 2 years later, she told me she didn't love her husband anymore and was getting divorced. Part of me was secretly excited to have an opportunity at last, but she was vulnerable, so I prioritized being a good friend. One night, she opened up more. She'd been cheating on her husband for 6 months with another married colleague she'd been conspicuously chummy with, but this married guy ended up not wanting a long-term relationship with her. She was crushed. Her husband had no idea about any of it, and her divorce lawyer advised her to keep it that way. She earned more. We had a moment that night, but despite my long unrequited crush and my horniness, I let it go. I'm not a very emotional or emotive person, but after she left my apartment, I cried for her sad sap husband and because she was so shitty to him. She told me over lunch soon after that she wanted us to be together, but I said cheating was a deal breaker for me. We met our respective current spouses soon after and worked together for another 12 years. I was right to pass on her, but sometimes I still feel disappointed. She wasn't the one who got away, but I lost the person I thought she was. When he acted stupid around a girl our other roommate was interested in. She was polyamorous, and using them to try and be near me. One night I went to bed because I had to work, and my one roommate and I had been hooking up a bit seriously. He somehow convinced her to come hang out, I think hoping he could mess around with her. At the time, I was led to believe she was already coming over for our roommate. So he and I were cuddling in my bed, and then as we were about to kiss, he got a text from her saying she had arrived and needed to be let in. He bolted so fast and excitedly without any notice of me. Annoying. Then she really wanted to come in to see me. I pretended to be asleep, and she kissed my cheek. Then he went to kiss me too, and I just rolled away. She laughed at him, and they went out on the balcony for her to have a smoke. My window was open, and she asked him why I gave him the cold shoulder. I think she's just really jealous of you, ha ha ha, because I invited you to come hang out. That's how I found out he had invited her, when he told me our roommate had. Nothing turns me off more than someone accusing me of jealousy because they're upset I'm not getting competitive with someone trying to get attention. I had a summer job during college, working on a farm, picking berries. The pay was terrible, but I honestly just did it for fun. I would just sit down and listen to music on my iPod, while picking berries all day. The owner of the farm was an older man in his 50s or 60s. One day he tried to help me by tying a bucket around my waist, and I stupidly allowed him to. While he was doing this, he rested his hand on my breast for a few seconds, and I was frozen in shock, but I continued to go there thinking that maybe it wasn't intentional. Another day that I went there, it was very hot and I started to feel dizzy, so I sat in the shade to get some rest. The owner came up to me and asked me if I wanted to rest inside his house, then he proceeded to try and kiss me. I ran away. Later on, I realized his 2 daughters went to my college and were close to my age. I was recounting the story to this guy the first was dating, and he told me that it was basically my fault and that I was asking for it because of what I was wearing. I would go there with yoga flares and a baggy long t-shirt. Completely lost interest in him after that. I was actually in a relationship with him. The actress he had a crush on got pregnant, and photos of her pregnant were being published. He kept making remarks about how gross she was now and that pregnant women were damaged goods. Bear in mind he had an almost unhealthy obsession with this actress, so to hear him talk about her like this was like a switch being flicked. I was only 20 and asked what would happen if we had kids. He gave a long speech about how men have a hall pass to cheat on pregnant women because they aren't attractive anymore and how it's a woman's duty to snap back after a pregnancy for the sake of their partner. Anyway, my feelings disappeared pretty fast after that. Other reasons too, but that one sticks out. Anything that is reminiscent of poor manners or poor character. A few years back, I was with this girl I really liked, one of the few times I remember having an actual crush as an adult. We were about to walk down some stairs, and at the top was this homeless-looking fellow trying to get down. He was incredibly unsteady and looked like he might fall at any minute. I grabbed his arm and proceeded to guide him down the stairs. When we got down, my crush had a look of disgust on her face and proudly told me that she would never have done that. Not gonna lie, I would have helped the guy regardless, but I also kind of thought she would appreciate the kind gesture. I never could look at her the same after that. We still keep in touch, but my crush was instantly killed in that moment. I realized that he was actually a horrible person. Like genuinely despicable. Then I realized why. He knew he was nothing but mediocre in all his abilities and that the only reason people liked him was because he was attractive. He was insecure. Everything was because he was insecure. He treated people like shit, was codependent on his right-hand woman, and talked shit about everyone because he knew he had no identity of his own. The school treated him like a prodigy because his pretty face looked good on Instagram. The worst part is I didn't just have a crush, I was in love with him. I wanted to help him. Because when he was actually nice, he was sweet and considerate and a great friend. But all the other times, he was shitty to everyone, including me. He didn't care about me the way I cared about him. He never would. I wasn't going to sit there and wait. So I left. I had a crush on a man who worked in a neighboring city, but we both had the same profession, so we were around each other a lot. I adored everything about him. He was very handsome, engaging, smart, funny, compassionate, the total package. He was in the hospital, and I had a job transfer interview close by, so during a break, I went to visit him. He was in great spirits, chatty, and glad to have some company. He wanted to know how my interview was going, and as we were talking, he shifted in the bed and farted as loud as he could while never missing a beat in the conversation. I was shocked. He acted like it was nothing, but I was so turned off, I left after a few minutes. We stayed friends, but any romantic thoughts about him were gone. I mean, if you gotta let one rip, do it quietly or say, sorry, but this has to happen. I would have laughed it off, but it was so coarse and rude. I wonder if he ever thought, wow, I fucked that up. I liked a girl since 4th grade. It was my junior year in high school. We still hung out, but I was too shy and afraid to say anything. My mom was always nice to her, even on field trips. The girl did two things that really killed any interest I had in her. Firstly, it's fine to get a boyfriend, but going out of your way to make out with him in front of me, like wild, crazy making out, was annoying. Then, my mom waved at her one day, and the girl didn't think I saw the glare she gave my mom before storming away. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. She ended up marrying the other guy, which is fine. The weird thing was, even after they had been married, she would try to flirt with me. The last time I saw them, I made sure to say in front of him that I'm happy she found the right guy. To that, the man's poor soul seemed so relieved, and she seemed really disappointed. Granted, I was a fraidy cat, but I avoided a lot of drama with that one. I had a crush on a guy pretty much throughout middle and high school, and it was relatively well known amongst our class. Until our senior year, during the meeting we had before our first day of school, basically, the principal got us all together and wished us well for the year. I was glancing at him occasionally while she was talking because I caught him staring at me. Instant butterflies. Then when I wasn't looking, his friend leans over to him and goes, "Is that your girlfriend?" To which he responds with a disgusted scoff and, "She wishes." I looked over at him again in that exact moment and just stared, both livid and brokenhearted. I guess he didn't think I would hear him because he looked pale as a ghost and guilty as hell. The butterflies died that day. Some people have had theories that he liked me, too, but I wasn't popular enough to be pursued, so he had to throw them off. I don't particularly care. It was an asshole thing to say with me within hearing distance. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the best Reddit stories.